It's the Brad and John Show.
The Brad and John Show, May 22nd. This is the B Block, May 22nd, 2025. I should put the year in there because somebody, maybe 5 years from now, when I would be, 94? Would that make me, John, 5 years from now, 94?
Yeah, according to your kayfabe math, that's how old you will be.
Somebody go, wow, that guy, he sounds better than Joe Biden at his age. Anyway, this is B Block, which means we start right around 7:20. Okay, before I get into my Sally Quinn story, a couple of things. First off, I'm just going to say this right now. If you've read the national news, there was a young couple, two Jewish people, gunned down by some Palestinian nutbag. Okay? John, I will never understand how religion that's supposed to bring us together, that's supposed to honor life, at least the Christian religion and the Jewish religion do, why it turns into this wedge that turns people into maniacs and nutbags. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And so, I mean, I think I know that you've told the story before, Brad. Some folks might not have heard it, but you grew up in a very, I think you would call it an ecumenical background, a very diverse religious background that was all generally Christian. But isn't it fair to say that while Christianity generally teaches love, like there are probably other religions that would put war and battle and vengeance right up there with love, wouldn't you say?
Well, that's why the Middle East will never be straightened out, because you've got all these crazy, weird nutbags that, like, what is it? The Hamas, the Palestinian Constitution states that their number one goal is the elimination of Israel and the Zionists. Okay?
Yeah.
Think about that for a minute. Okay? Let's say here in the United States we had the Catholics saying the number one reason for their religious is to get rid of the Protestants. You know, I'm going like, okay, it just doesn't work. If you know the story, young couple, and it gets worse. It was on the top of the hour newscast, when we did Fox News at the top of the hour. It was a young couple. He bought an engagement ring. He was going to ask this woman to marry him, and they were at some event, and they were from the Jewish embassy or something like that, and they were at some event, and some Palestinian dude from Chicago, I'm going like, okay, Palestinian guy from Chicago, I guess not from everywhere, just went up and murdered him. I mean, I'll never understand this. I don't get it. I don't understand it. Human life is the most precious thing we have. Okay? And I know I sound like Mr. Weirdo when I say things like that, but it is. We're at the top of the food chain. And I just don't understand how someone can say, I am religion X, their religion Y, I'm going to kill them because they don't believe the things I believe. Get what I'm saying, John?
Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying. But you also think of, like, if you have millions of Muslims and you have millions of Christians, a percentage of those people are going to be mentally unwell. And so they're going to commit crimes in the name of their religion, right?
Well, just like this guy that blew himself up in front, was at Palm Springs in front of the fertility clinic over the weekend? I mean,
yeah, that's a good example of that.
Another bizarre story. It was immediately people go, oh, that was an abortion clinic. No, it was some fertility clinic. And he had some manifesto about human evolution or some crazy weird stuff. I'm going like, okay, this is just bizarre. Okay, one other story before we get to the Sally Quinn story. John, are you an Indy 500 guy? Do you watch the Indy 500?
I'm not. No, I've never watched it.
You're going to watch it this year because you know why?
Is Danica Patrick twerking on top of a car?
No. Almost as good.
Okay, because I would watch that.
There's going to be a race. There's going to be a pre-race at the Indy 500. You ready for this?
Yeah. Is it women on foot?
No. It's the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile race. They're going to bring in 6. I don't know if you knew this or not. There's 6 Oscar Mayer Wienermobiles, and they're going to have a race at the Indy 500 before the official Indy 500 on, what is that, on Sunday, I guess it is, for the Indy 500 on Friday. Would take place before the Indy 500 on Friday, May 23rd? Are they doing it tomorrow? 6 Wienermobiles, they'll zigzag across America on a daily basis. They'll go head-to-head on legendary Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I thought it was Sunday. But here it says tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe that's a pre-race.
Well, you better rearrange your weekend. Brad, this is the first time, according to our archives, that you've discussed the Wienermobile since January 4th, 2024. So it's been more than a year since we talked about it.
John, what do you do? Do you have like this in your database or something like that?
I just, I have access to some tools here, Brad. And remember, we discussed back then, because I don't remember until I had to have this jog in my memory, the Wienermobile was renamed the Frankmobile.
And that didn't go over very well.
Yeah, apparently not.
Yeah,
Who's going to go see the Frankmobile? Right. That sounds like you're going to see your accountant in a strip mall, and he's going to lecture you for not keeping your receipts.
No, your accountant who runs out of his car. That's the Frankmobile. That's what it is.
Exactly.
He's got a little desk in his car and a calculator, and he's got a generator in the trunk, and he fires it up, and you sit in the back seat, and he does your taxes. Okay.
Now, hold on. What's the difference between, if there's 6 of these cars, what's the difference? Do they all have a different theme or what?
Funny you should bring that up, because it talks about, here, let me go back to that story. I was all I thought we were done with that. You bring up, you want the story, I got the story. It gets even weirder, okay?
Is one of them covered like in relish? Is the other one a mustard?
Okay, here we go. Each Wienermobile represents a different type of regional dog. The Shy Dog represents the Midwest, while the New York Dog will race for the East. The Slaw Dog stands for the Southeast, while the Sonoran Dog reps the Southwest. The Chili Dog, of course, represents the South, while the Seattle Dog will race for the Northwest. I didn't know they were different. I thought they were all the. I mean, there's there's Wienermobiles running around with coleslaw. Isn't that what the Slaw Dog is? Coleslaw on top of it?
Yeah, I guess it would be. But here's who I think gets shortchanged. The Seattle Dog, representing the Northwest, they don't seem to identify anything with it. Like, do you sprinkle Starbucks coffee beans on it? Does it have like purple? Do you take little purple hairs and sprinkle it on there? What is Seattle?
It was the what was? Hold on a minute again. It was here. Let me go back to my story.
It seems like everybody else has a theme, have something unique about their area.
New York Dog for the
Seattle,
East.
They just call it Seattle in the Northwest.
Yeah, just while the Seattle Dog will race for the Northwest. I don't know what a Seattle Dog is.
Maybe that's to be determined. Maybe they just have a bunch of hippies up there, and it rains all the time.
John, you've missed your job, because here's this lady. I think her name was. I guess she's a woman. Kelsey Rice, Kelsey. Wouldn't that be a woman, Kelsey Rice?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, here's her quote. The Indy 500 marks the unofficial kickoff of summer and the start of hot dog season. As a brand known for sparking smiles in disarmingly delightful ways, it's only fitting that we bring a race of epic proportions to the Speedway and celebrate a timeless tradition, delicious meats, and a little friendly competition to kick off a summer of wieners. John, on the John Combest official PR spokesperson scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the best, what would you say Kelsey rated on that?
Well, I'm looking up her photo here to see if I should give her the full length or if I should give her a little less, Brad.
Okay, I'm not going to touch that. Okay.
No, I mean the full length of credit here. Let's see. Let's look up her picture here, and see if we can work with this.
Kelsey.
Yeah. You know what? Shout out to Kelsey Rice.
She's a 10.
That's all I'll say, Brad. And her photo is a woman with a cocktail that looks to be filled with like some consumer brand of pasta. And the woman has her tongue out and she's about to lick the cocktail umbrella. She has long nails that would look nice wrapped around a cocktail glass. So yeah, shout out to Kelsey Rice. She is currently director of Oscar Mayer brand communications, and she spent over 8 years at Kraft Heinz. Yeah, Brad.
Really?
Yeah. It looks like she worked for Ian J. Gallo Winery for a while. So she probably likes to throw them back. Oh, she worked for the Western Growers Association. That's cool. That's an ag group. Oh, most importantly, she worked for Driscoll's, Brad, back in the day. The strawberry company.
Wow, John, you ask John a question. He gives you more than you want to know about Kelsey.
I know. I'm the Brad Hildebrand of Hot Chicks on LinkedIn, Brad.
Okay, now we go on to the story, which I think is very important, okay? You don't know who Sally Quinn is.
I've never heard of her, and she's not related to Kay Quinn, nor is she related to Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman.
No. She is a D.C. insider and longtime columnist for the Washington Post. I thought you'd remember her name.
Oh, wow, okay.
Because
I don't read those people. That's disgusting. Go ahead.
Her name pops up in news a lot because they talk about Sally Quinn says. I mean, there's a lot of national stories that Sally Quinn covers, and they talk about things, and people are quoted, okay? Here's the article. I'll give you the headline. Jill Biden accused of, quote, elder abuse by Washington Post columnist for pushing husband to seek re-election. A Washington socialite and journalist accused, and she is far left, let me put it that way. A Washington socialite and journalist accused former First Lady Jill Biden of elder abuse in an explosive new interview after former President Joe Biden was diagnosed with advanced prostate cancer. Hold on, let me clear my throat. Okay, she was on a podcast. This is the quote. I'd blame Jill Biden for this. Jill Biden is his wife. And if Jill Biden had stood up and gone to him and said, Joe, you can't do it, he wouldn't have run, Quinn told Palmieri. She's on podcast with Tara Palmieri on the Tara Palmieri show. She goes on to say, she clearly was in favor of his running, and I just think it was a terrible disservice to the country. John, how many times have I said that the person who is utmost at fault for this whole thing with Joe Biden is his wife, Jill?
You've been saying that for months, Brad, and you've been saying that at some point Joe Biden made this about her.
Oh,
you said
did.
that Joe Biden was enamored with the trappings of office, with being the first lady, and it didn't have to do with putting Joe out there for the good of the country. It had to do with what Joe Biden wanted for herself.
Right. And remember the classic, there was this rally after the infamous debate, and I need to pull that quote, where she gets up and she's screaming. She goes, oh, aren't you so proud of Joe? He answered every question. I mean,
yeah, and that's what you would tell a toddler. That's what you would tell a elementary school kid, right?
John, let's say you're married. Let's say you're an NBA basketball star, okay? And you are in the final game, the championship game of the NBA season, which we're into the Final Four right now for the NBA season for the championship. But let's say this is the final game of the NBA season. And normally you score 30, 40, 50 points a game. You're knocking down threes. You're doing slam dunks. You're stealing the ball. You're playing defense. You're playing offense, except on the night of the championship. And on the night of the championship, you don't make 1 point. You play every minute of the game, but you don't sink a two. You don't sink a three.
I commit 20 fouls.
Right.
I have a terrible game.
Right. And after the NBA game, Mrs. Combest comes out and said, oh, John was so good tonight. Don't you think he should have been star of the game? Don't you think he should be MVP of the playoffs? That's the Jill Biden thing. I mean, how in the world can anybody, after your husband has crashed and burned, not only crashed and burned, he's crashed and burned, and then Josh Hawley showed up and dumped Coldwater Creek water on top of him as he's burning, and now he's dead and he's radioactive, and she comes out, oh, Joe was so wonderful. The lady should be in jail. I'm telling you, she should be in jail.
Yeah. I mean, she's certain now. Brett, defenders of Joe Biden would probably say that she was just being a good cheerleader, and she was just standing there. And Brad, the other thing is, I know that the stakes are different because he was president of the United States, but haven't you seen an elderly relative, maybe a grandparent or something? Maybe you've been blessed to not see this, but haven't you seen somebody lose their mind, and then you just try to keep them happy, and then you just try to keep them comfortable?
Okay, let me go a little further on this. Quinn described feeling aghast. We just talked about this. Quinn described feeling aghast by how Jill Biden continued to push ahead and rally support for her husband's presidential campaign immediately after the hideous June 2024 debate, which sparked debate over whether Biden was fit to serve another 4 years. And this is Sally Quinn. She wasn't protecting him. I thought it was elder abuse. And get this. Quinn has dined with the Washington establishment for decades, said Biden's apparent worsening health was an open secret among the Washington elite, who were worried about Biden's ability to handle another 4 years in the Oval Office. Everybody knew it.
They did, of course, and they were. But this goes back to the broader issue that we've talked about quite a bit, Brad, which is the Jake Tapper book, along with Alex Rosenstein, Berg, Horowitz, Stein, Anderson. But the idea that everybody knew it, but nobody was willing to say it because they wanted Trump to lose so badly that they were willing to pretend that Joe Biden was competent.
Okay, next thing. Here's the interesting part of this is, and I will give Peter Doocy credit for this. You're a Twitter guy, right? Did you see this post he put up yesterday?
I don't think so, no.
Oh, this was great. You just said everybody was ignoring it, except for Peter Doocy. Peter Doocy put up a long post on Twitter yesterday, X, whatever you want to call it, of all the times he stood up in the press room at the White House and asked KJP pointed questions about Joe Biden's competency and things like that. And it's fascinating because of the fact that, here, let me read you the first paragraph. He says, Fox News' Peter Doocy has some unique insight on former President Joe Biden as questions continue to persist about whether there was a cover-up to hide his declining mental state while serving as commander-in-chief. Okay, Doocy, a senior White House correspondent, posted multiple videos to X on Wednesday showing him questioning Biden and the White House about the then president's cognitive decline. One of the questions he asked point blank to Joe Biden, and Joe Biden blew him off. Almost all the rest of them are him in the Washington press room asking pointed questions to KJP, which he just blew off. And
of course. So they were all complicit, and they were all just straight up lying.
Right. And the interesting thing was, I heard this yesterday in a talk show. I won't say which one because you get mad at me because I listen to those people.
Go ahead.
Anyway, the point was made that apparently KJP is a physical fitness buff. And she runs like every morning. She gets up early and she runs like 6 miles in D.C., okay? So she's like in great shape. She's in great shape. And one of the quotes they pulled was her saying she can't hardly keep up with Joe.
Oh, right. You're kidding. Now, she didn't mean running. She meant generally physically, right?
I don't know. I mean, think about that for a minute.
She didn't. She clearly didn't. They're lying. Like, she clearly didn't say that Joe Biden can outrun her.
Well, hold on a minute. Let me see if I can find the quote. I think it's in his article. Okay, here's another. Here we go again. In one video, Doocy is seen questioning Biden about special counsel Robert Hur's report that concluded that one of the reasons Biden wasn't charged for his handling of classified Obama-era documents found in his former office and home was because he was a, quote, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. And he says, and Doocy asked him this, and he says, this is a Biden quote, I'm well-meaning, and I'm an elderly man, and I know what the hell I'm doing. I put this country back on the feet. I don't need his recommendations. Doocy then asked how bad Biden's memory was and would be able to continue to serve as president. He says, and this is Biden, he says, my memory is so bad, I let you speak. That's what Biden said, okay?
So, that's funny. That's a funny line.
Well, but once again, it's like the emperor has no clothes. I mean, this is, there are people saying that in the history of our country, this is the number one failing of the press. The number one failing of the press is that everybody except for Peter Doocy. And remember, what did they call Peter Doocy? What did the Democrats call Peter Doocy? Oh, he's that right-wing conspiracy guy. He's the son of that.
Yeah. And all these things prove to be true. Like everything that he says proves to be true, right? Everything that was once a conspiracy is now mainstream.
He's the son of that guy that's on Fox and Friends in the morning. What do you expect from him? He's going to ask those questions. He's trying to embarrass our president. Our president's the sharpest guy around. Ask Joe Scarborough. Hey, F you if you don't hear me. He's the best version of Biden I've ever seen. And if you heard the interview where they nailed down Joe Scarborough about that, oh my God. I see, as a journalist, if I'm telling you, my old professor, when's the last time I talked about Kamil Winter, John?
His name is Camellia Summer, right? Isn't that his name?
Kamil, Kamil, Kamil Winter, who was my professor.
Okay, I got the opposite there.
My professor at SIUE. Once again, when we took that class, we hated it because it was hard and he made us think. And he literally had that European thing where he'd get, if you said something that he didn't agree with, he'd walk up to your desk and he'd bend over and your nose and his nose was like maybe a half inch apart. And he would just sort of berate you, not to your face, in your face. And we all hated it. And now I look back and think to myself, it's the best class I've ever taken. I mean, because so many things he said back in the day, back in the 1800s when I was in that journalism class, so many things he said have resonated with me right now, and to the point where it's almost like I didn't understand the term flying by the seat of your pants until one day when I was in a helicopter and we were flying sideways through the arch. And I thought to myself, this is extremely uncomfortable. Now I totally understand what flying by the seat of your pants means. Just like I totally understand what press bias is when I hear it. And that's because of Kamil Winter. Dr. Winter, thank you once again. Okay, John, I'm done.
Hey, Jen Psaki text said she's going to have to circle back about that. KJP wants to flip through her binder for just a second to find a response to you, Brad.
Okay.
Do you know that she's the first transsexual the first black lesbian to ever be a press secretary? And this is how you're treating her?
John, and can I tell you something? You know what I love you know what I love about the Trump administration so far?
What's that?
You never hear the word first in front of anybody's name.
Yeah, Caroline Leavitt is the first hot blonde in 4 years.
Right. And she's the first one to wear a cross around her neck every single day, right? Okay.
Amen.
We have to take a break.